Rolex?
Omega.
Beautiful.
Love it, hate it, love it. That pretty much sums up my relationship with the Omega Seamaster 300, of which Omega has just released 2 new versions. Released in 1993 as an update to Omega's already popular Seamaster 200M, the 300 quickly became one of the most popular watches of all time when it found its way onto the wrist of MI6 agent 007. The 1995 James Bond film GoldenEye would forever cement the blue bezel with the blue wave dial as the original James Bond Seamaster. Following up with that success, Omega has appeared in every Bond film since 1995. And while the screen time has been shared with appearances from the Seamaster siblings like the Aquaterra and the Planet Ocean, the Seamaster is undoubtedly the undisputed watch of James Bond. And getting back to my love-hate relationship, well, for 26 years, I cringed at the very sight of this watch. I mean, after all, this watch was designed to be the direct competition to the greatest dive watch of all time. My holy grail at the time, the Rolex Submariner. Not even James Bond himself could have convinced me that this watch was cool, with that hideous helium escape valve sitting at the 10 o'clock position like it was an afterthought in the design. And while I thought the hands and the dial were cool, they weren't cool enough for me to get past one of the ugliest bracelets I had ever seen on a luxury watch. Well, that was until 2019 when Omega released the updated ceramic dial version in white. All of a sudden, that hideous helium escape valve became a work of art I previously had not been mature enough to appreciate. And the bracelet, well, the bracelet once seen in a new light, just kidding, the bracelet still sucks, but that is not an issue as Omega has decided to borrow from their current Bond edition and present the 2 latest editions on a stainless steel mesh bracelet with a folding clasp that, in my opinion, exudes class and sophistication and is nothing short of beautiful. In keeping with the current trend of pulling inspiration from the past, this band is dripping with vintage vibes and is clearly a throwback of the old Milanese bracelets Omega used in the 1970s. And here's a fun fact. Milanese bands were named after chainmail suits that were produced in Milan, and because of this, when Omega released this monstrosity in 1971, it was advertised as shark-proof. But if you, like me, saw Britt Pierce tear into the fact that the bracelet doesn't work on smaller wrists, fear not, as both versions are available on rubber. And if I'm being honest, it's not just the bracelet that doesn't work on smaller wrists, it's the whole watch. Coming in at 42 millimeters with a lug-to-lug of 49.7, the Seamaster has a serious presence on the wrist that I would say, unless your wrist is at least 6.5 inches, is going to look a bit large. So what is new about these 2 new editions of the Seamaster? Let's start with the new dome sapphire crystal, similar to the crystal Omega used in the new first Omega in Space, released in October. Omega claims that the crystal is virtually scratch-proof, pointing out the fact that the crystal is graded a 9 on the Mohs scale, a hardness scale introduced by German geologist Friedrich Mohs, based off of one mineral's ability to scratch another, and according to the Mohs scale, the only thing able to scratch this crystal is a diamond. One more thing that is nice about this new crystal is that the anti-reflective coating is only placed on the inside, meaning the worry of scratching the coating is non-existent. Taking a look at the first and my least favorite of the 2, Omega has opted to go with a grade 5 titanium bezel with a laser ablated diving scale and positive relief. And if you are not familiar with what positive relief is, it's the process of removing the material around a design as opposed to engraving in the detail. And I have to say that I do like the texture, and I'm super impressed with the level of polishing on the numbers and the minute markers. Omega has done away with the iconic wave dial for this version and replaced it with a PVD coated stainless steel dial with a brushed finish. Keeping it clean, and to be honest, to my disliking, Omega has went with the 8806, which is the no-date version of the 8800 Omega has been using since 2016. I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You may have noticed that both the Seamasters is lacking of any color, which is one of my favorite parts of the next one. At first glance, it looks just like any old monochrome Seamaster, but upon closer inspection, Omega has gone full old school. Gone with the ceramic bezel, gone with the ceramic dial, both have been replaced with aluminum. And while technically a downgrade, when paired with the straight non-fitted end links of this vintage-esque bracelet, this watch checks all the boxes needed to beautifully blend old with new. I guess it's a less is more kind of thing. And speaking of a less is more kind of thing, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall and have gotten the opportunity to hear the design pitch on these two new watches. I can just see it, a couple of fat cats chuckling away as they discussed how they would rip away the costly ceramic and replace it with a much cheaper aluminum. They would save a few bucks by removing the date and a few pennies by not having to screen print the Seamaster in red. As they toasted each other with their $500 an ounce scotch, one would smile and say, "Hey, I have an idea. Why don't we charge them more?" Yes, that is correct. The standard Seamaster is currently $5,900 on bracelet. These two new versions are $6,500. That is a $600 price increase. So how is that for less is more? And here is how I know that I have a sickness. In my mind, that meeting between the fat cats, well, that meeting took place, and it doesn't change the way I feel. I still want this watch. So that is going to do it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me as I share my thoughts on the new Omega Speedmaster. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button. I hope you will consider subscribing, and if you do, please let me know what subscriber number you are in the comments. I'm James. This is Blue Collar Luxe, and I will see you on the next one.